What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality podcast. I'm your host. I'm Caitlin Kenna Smith, and today we're going to get into another episode of the new series that I started last week that you guys seem to love, which is Lessons from Training, because I learned so many different lessons through all of the training that I do, because when you're putting yourself in a really uncomfortable situation many times each day, because when I do multiple pieces, they're all equally and some more so uncomfortable, but not just physically, emotionally, and mentally. You learn a lot. And a lot of the lessons that I've learned through training, and I'm sure that you've learned if you work out, you can apply to different areas of your life, and it can really help you excel and overcome a lot of different obstacles that are going to come in your way, because that's what life's all about. It's never going to be sunshine and rainbows. Maybe it will, but it's not going to be permanent, right? We're always going to face hardship, and that's just something that's part of life. And one of the biggest things that training teaches me is that I have more in me than I could ever imagine. And I'm sure that you've probably experienced this if you're somebody who works out, right? If you resistance train on a consistent basis, we'll say like super basic stuff, like you do some back squats, you do deadlifts, you do bench press, use the dumbbells. I'm sure you've had moments where you look at a particular weight and you think, I can't lift that. And then you try it and you can. Or you look at a workout and you say, that's a lot, I don't think I can do that. But then you try it and you can and you finish it. And there's something about that feeling that's unexplainable and that allows you to really just feel like, okay, if I could do this, what else am I capable of? But before we get into the lessons from training from this week, I want to just thank every single one of you who has supported the Powerhouse Mentality brand as we launched on Monday. I'm recording this on Wednesday. You'll listen to this on Wednesday, or it's going to go up on Wednesday. But thank you to everybody who has so far supported the Powerhouse Mentality brand that we launched on Monday. We are sold out of certain sizes of the t-shirt bundles that we have. We still have some in stock. So if you haven't already got them, you're going to get 4 shirts for $60, 3 t-shirts, 1 light, breathable, athletic type spring hoodie, we'll call it. I don't know what to call it, but I love it. They're all in black, and the purpose of us doing this at such an extremely discounted rate is to be able to give you guys the opportunity to give us feedback, the good, the bad, the ugly. We want to know what you want from the brand so that we can produce the best product possible for our community. So we want the community to be a part in building the products. So the apparel, the clothing, it's such a small part of the brand. And I want you guys to understand the biggest part of the brand is going to be the community, is going to be the competition. So make sure that if you haven't already, you go down to the show notes and you join the free private Facebook community where all of that is going to take place. You're going to get free trainings. You're going to get support from everybody who's in that group, and you're going to be able to throw down your wins, throw down your PRs, and be able to track and see what you're capable of. So let's get into today's podcast, though, because I don't want to take too much of your time away. So let me paint the picture. On Friday, I had a conditioning piece where it was assault bike and single arm dumbbell snatches, which that is just a terrible combination. If you know, you know. There's something about just selling your soul on an assault bike and then going into like bent over position multiple times to thrust a dumbbell over your head that just doesn't feel good. So it was 21, 15, 9, 15, 21, calories on the assault bike, and single arm dumbbell snatches 4 time. And I knew this one was going to hurt because anything that's 21, 15, 9, it's deceiving, but it hurts. And then I'm going 21, 15, 9, 15, 21. That's just disgusting. But, you know, I don't train because it's comfortable. I train because it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to get me better. So I went into the workout and I went in with a great strategy to pace myself. Not overly pace myself where I'm going like leisurely, but I have an issue when I train where I go out too hot and then I crumble and die like halfway through the workout, or I'm not able to finish as quickly as I could because I have to break up the movement so much because of how fatigued I am. Now, what I've been doing lately is kind of getting a strategy for each conditioning piece, for each workout that I do, to be able to say, okay, if this was a competition, how would I approach this? How would I be able to get the best time possible? Because I want to replicate that as much as possible. And I did it so well. I was so proud of myself. I was proud of my time. But the last round of dumbbell snatches, the 21 reps, I was going hard and my heart rate was high. So my breathing wasn't very controlled because I was just like, let's finish, And probably with like 5 reps left, my breathing was completely out of control. I was just getting it done. I was going pretty fast and explosively. And when you're going explosively and your breathing is out of control, you're more likely to probably pull a muscle in your back because your rib cage and all that stuff is moving. Anyway, I finished the conditioning piece and I was super excited with my time. I felt like shit because it was a terrible piece, but I stood up and I started walking around, started getting ready to do my front squats, which were next on the programming. And I was like, my hip, my lower back, something just doesn't feel right. And it just kept getting worse and worse. That night, it was pretty bad where we were at Starbucks doing some work for the launch day. And I was just sitting there and I was like, oh man, this is not good. Like I kept getting up to go to the bathroom and I would be like limping to the bathroom. But I've been here before and my mind tells me you're going to be okay. But then the other side of my mind says you're probably never going to be able to work out ever again, because my mind always likes to go to the worst case scenario, which is not good because then we just cause ourselves excessive stress and anxiety that doesn't need to be there. And it takes away our time, energy, and focus from the things that are most important. And I know I'm not alone in this. I definitely got it from my mom, who also thinks the worst case scenario. Luckily, I have a husband who likes to pull me back and remind me that I am always thinking about the worst case scenario, which makes me kind of feel better because then I understand, okay, I'm not thinking logically, and what he's saying is more logical, so I'm going to listen to him, not me. Anyway, I woke up the next morning, and Stone and I had planned to go to a CrossFit class, to take part in a CrossFit class, because we never do that enough, that one of my friends was coaching, and then she was also doing a gymnastics seminar afterwards, so we thought it would be a great opportunity to do a class, interact with some people, get out of that garage gym for a day, and also get some knowledge on how to improve my gymnastics, which is my weakest point in my training. And it was great. But I woke up that morning and I literally was crying on the floor because of how bad the pain was. But I went anyway. As I warmed up, I stretched it out. It felt a lot better. And then it was just kind of on and off pain, like nagging ache. But on Sunday, I spent 45 minutes, literally just 45 minutes, stretching it. And it felt so much better. Monday, though, it was still a little bit achy, just didn't feel right, like that dull, like icy, like nerve ache. It's feeling a lot better now. I still kind of feel the pain, but it's not quite as bad. Now, I'm setting the tone, okay? Remember, we're going to get back to training on Monday, which is where the lesson came, but I needed to set the tone. So going into Monday, that was going on. I tweaked my back during training, so it was kind of aching from that. On Sunday, I woke up with a sore throat. So I was still feeling the residuals from that. I think it was allergies. It's still kind of bothering me, but it feels more like allergies, and there's pollen fucking everywhere. So I'm assuming that's what it is. I never had allergies until I moved from New York to North Carolina. And if you live in North Carolina, you know that like the pollen gets so bad that it literally coats your car. And then I moved to Florida and it got worse. So every time I move further down south, my allergies just get worse. And I was also feeling rather hormonal. Which left me just not feeling good going into Monday's training session. Like I just didn't feel good at all. Mentally, emotionally, physically was not good. And on top of that all, it was the most hot and humid day it had been all year. Which a lot of you are going to be like, well, you live in Florida. You signed up for this. I didn't want to move to Florida. I told myself I would never move to Florida because I want seasons. I don't want humidity. I don't want it to rain randomly. But here we are, because you do weird things for the people that you love. Anywho, the heat, the humidity, that was kind of just like the icing on top, because sore throat, achy back, cramps, emotionally not intact, it wasn't good. So the way I like to look at this, though, is that a lot of people will be like, well, why didn't you just take the day off from working out? Number one, training for me is part of my job as I'm becoming an athlete. So it's something that needs to get done. But it was the same for me before it was a job, because most recently is when it really started to become like, okay, this is my job mindset. Where if I made a commitment to myself, like I was going to get that shit done regardless of how I felt, regardless of whether or not I was motivated to get it done. I'm just going to get it done because I'm going to keep that promise to myself, and I'm going to have integrity for who I am. And that's why I've been able to excel in my life in certain areas and have, even if I'm not quote unquote excelling, I'm moving forward. That's what's important. So one of the things that I like to say is conditions will never be ideal, so you kind of have to get over it. Too many of you are waiting for things to be perfect in order to take action, but you have to realize that the more you wait, the more you put it off, the less likely you are to get it done. How many of you, I want you to really honestly answer this question, how many of you said, okay, I'm going to work out at this time? And then it's like this time happens and you're like, I'll do it in 30 minutes. I'll do it in 30 minutes. Then all of a sudden it's 10 p.m. and you're like, I don't have time to work out now. I'll just do it tomorrow. I know that a lot of you have been there, so don't lie to yourself. Now, the majority of my workouts start off with me walking into the garage, opening the door. As I'm closing the door, me saying to Stone, who's probably in the kitchen, I don't want to do this. And this occurs multiple times during my training because I'll come in, go to the bathroom between pieces, and then go back out and say, I really don't want to do this, or this is going to suck so bad. But I still do it because I know that I'll always feel better when it's done. No matter how brutal the workout was, I never regret it, and I always come back the next day, and I always open up my programming every morning like it's Christmas. I'm excited about it, even though I know it's going to destroy my world, but I'm going to become better from it, and it gets me excited. It gets me so excited because I'm like, oh my God, I know this is going to help me become the athlete that I want to be, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get there. So if Eric can just give me what I need and I just execute, that's why I have a coach, because if I can get the plan and I just have to execute it, then hell yeah, I'm in. But back to Monday. So I'll explain all of the pieces that I had. Now, the first piece, and this is where it all kind of started, where the lesson came into play, was an EMOM of 30 minutes. So for those of you who don't know what an EMOM is, every minute on the minute for 30 minutes. So minute 1, you'll do one thing. Minute 2, you'll do another thing. Minute 3, you'll do another thing. And with this EMOM specifically, there were 3 movements repeated for 30 minutes. So it would be 10 rounds. There was no rest. The rest that you got was however long it took you to finish the movement in that minute. The remainder of that minute is your rest before the next minute begins. So for example, this EMOM was the first minute you would do 45 double unders. The second minute you would do 8 burpee box jump overs. The third minute you would do a 9-calorie assault bike. So for example, I was finishing the 8 burpee box jump overs with like 35, sometimes 40 seconds remaining in the minute. So I would have 35, 40 seconds rest before I hopped on the assault bike. Now, this workout and every workout that's like this, you look at it and you're like, that's not that bad. Like, I can do those movements in a minute. Easy. And then you start doing it and it all compounds and you realize that your world is slowly closing in on you. I think that's the best way that I can explain it. Now, this workout was disgusting. Disgusting. Like, so bad. And the entire time, I was truly questioning if I would actually be able to complete it without failing. I have never failed an EMOM before. I have failed other things with my training. But I've never failed one of these 30-minute EMOMs, and I'll be damned if I was going to fail it today. So the first couple rounds, okay, breathe. I remember I was 2 rounds in, and I get on the assault bike for the second time. I was like, I can do this. And then I realized that I was only on round 2 of 10, and it was already hurting pretty bad. And I was like, oh no, maybe I can't. So round 3, I kind of had that like, ooh, this hurts, but I'll be okay. Round 5 was like, oh my God, how am I only halfway through this? Round 7 was a come to Jesus moment where I really, really didn't think I'd be able to finish, because it wasn't even the mentality of it. At that point, my body just felt like it was literally shutting down. Like my burpee box jump overs felt like I was like throwing myself over this box. Round 9, I had one more round and I thought I was going to throw up. Round 10, I did it. I finished the workout. I didn't fail it. I was really proud of that, because 45 double unders 10 times for me is tough. And I felt like that was like the least tough part of the workout. It was just everything combined. I didn't fail it. I finished the workout, and then I proceeded to lay on the floor for about 5 minutes. I almost fell asleep. I was drowning in my own sweat, and I don't think I've ever felt that bad after a workout, even though I've done much worse workouts. It was like an out of body feeling. I just felt like literally my soul was taken from me. And now I have lost my soul during other workouts before, but this one was bad. Like it took me about 30 minutes to actually like start the next part of my training. And usually it doesn't take me 30 minutes. Usually like, all right, recover, get everything set up, 5 minutes, we're good to go with the next piece. I just also, in those 30 minutes, I started almost panicking because of how terrible I felt. Like I was like, oh man, something's not right. Why do I feel this bad? When in all reality, it was like all of these just compounding things that just made it way worse. And it was a tough workout. I talked to a lot of people who did a similar workout or the same workout, and they said that it was also very bad, and some people failed it. So I was like, okay, at least I didn't fail it. So for those 30 minutes that I was like trying to collect myself, I was panicking because of how awful I felt, and I also felt an overwhelming sense of doom. And I know that a lot of people who have had a panic attack or something, you've been there, where it's like, I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And here's where that lesson came up. Now, too bad I didn't realize that this lesson was happening until later in the evening when I was relaxing and thinking about how I survived the hellish session. That's when I thought about it. And the lesson is that no matter what you're going through, in training, in life, you're going to be okay. No matter what, no matter how horrific and uncomfortable something feels, no matter how much you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how dark this shit seems, you will be okay. And I bet that right now you can think back to a really traumatizing time in your life where you had that overwhelming sense of doom, where you had that overwhelming anxiety, where you felt so terrible, whether it be physically or emotionally, where you didn't think that you would be able to overcome it. But you fucking did, and look at you now. You made it, and you're okay. Because you're going to be faced with these moments where you don't think it's going to be okay, and it's going to happen. It's just part of life. You just have to keep telling yourself and reminding yourself that you will be okay, and that no matter how intense the pain and discomfort is right now in the moment, it is only temporary. You have to stay in the fight. Because you always have more fight in you, and you're capable of much more than you could ever imagine. And when you think you're at your limit, the reality is you're probably only about 40% there. You can keep going. I promise you that. I've learned this so much through my training, through my life, is that no matter how awful something seems, you will be okay and you can overcome this. And it's really hard to recognize that in the moment, but you absolutely can. Because guess what? That session wasn't even over, right? I finished that terrible 30-minute piece, and then I took an additional 30 minutes to collect my life, and I still felt like shit. To the point where I was texting my coach telling him that I don't think I'm going to be able to finish this training session. I don't do that, just so that you know. There's been like 2 times that I've not been able to complete a training session because I have the flu. Because my dumb ass thinks that I can just sweat it out. Sometimes you can. A lot of the times you can't. So I still had 3 snatch EMOMs, which was totaling about 20 minutes, 5 sets of snatch deadlifts, I had a second conditioning piece, which was 200 calorie row, and every 2 minutes you do 9 push presses. And then I had some accessory work with like banded pull-ups, barbell rows, and some skill work. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to even, like, I was warming up for the snatches, and I was like, this is going to be bad. But I just took it 1 rep at a time, 1 minute at a time. And then I went to start the 200 calorie row, and I was like, look, you're going to set a clock for 20 minutes, and you're going to see what happens. You're going to get to 150 calories, and you're going to be good. And then I did 200 because I knew that I could stay in the fight. I felt terrible, and it wasn't pretty. But I was able to stay in the fight, and that taught me more than if I just quit on myself because I didn't feel great. So like I said, conditions are never going to be ideal. Sometimes you're going to have to do shit that's really fucking hard and that you don't want to do. But when you finish it, when you overcome those hardships, you're going to realize that it was worth it. Every single time. Every time. So no matter what you're going through today, no matter how dark things seem in your life right now in this moment, understand that it's only temporary. It's only temporary. You can overcome it, you will overcome it, and you will be okay. Now, what I guys want you to do is I want you to share this episode of the podcast with somebody who needs to hear this message. I want you to share it on your social medias. I want you to spread the word, the mission. And I want you to go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.